There was a time when gold rested quietly inside temples and vaults, admired, protected, and displayed as a symbol of power. Yet gold never decided who survived. It never determined who ate, who marched, or who endured hardship. That authority belonged to something far more ordinary, far less glamorous, and far more essential: salt. Please like and subscribe.
Empires did not rise because they possessed more gold than their rivals. They rose because they could feed armies, preserve food, and keep populations alive through winter, war, and famine. For most of human history, survival was not about wealth, it was about logistics, and no resource shaped logistics more than salt. Gold could store value. Salt preserved life. Welcome to the Banking Historian, where money, power, and history collide, because salt was never as simple as it seems. To understand why salt once mattered more than gold, we must step into a world before refrigerators, before global supply chains, before chemical preservatives. In the ancient and medieval world, food was fragile. Meat spoiled within days. Harvests were seasonal. One failed crop meant hunger. One broken trade route meant collapse. Cities were not stable machines. They were fragile organisms, always one bad winter away from disaster. Salt solved this problem, not because it tasted good, but because it stopped decay. It drew moisture out of food, slowed bacterial growth, and allowed meat and fish to be stored for months instead of days. Salt made it possible to move armies across long distances. It allowed cities to grow beyond their immediate farmland. It made large populations sustainable. Salt was not seasoning. Salt was infrastructure. This distinction matters. Gold is valuable because people believe it is. Salt was valuable because biology demanded it. Human bodies require sodium to function. Animals require it. Entire food systems collapse without it. When something becomes unavoidable, it becomes power.
Ancient societies understood this intuitively. The Romans built roads specifically to transport salt, the most famous being the Via Salaria, stretching from coastal saltworks deep into the interior of Italy. Roman soldiers were sometimes compensated with salt allowances, a practice that eventually evolved into formal wages. The word salary still carries this history. Payment did not begin as abstract compensation. It began as access to survival. Where salt flowed, civilization followed. But salt had another crucial characteristic that made it even more powerful. It was geographically constrained. Not every region could produce it. Some relied on salt mines, others depended on evaporating seawater. Many had neither. This meant production sites were limited, trade routes were predictable, control was possible. And once control is possible, taxation is inevitable. This is where salt stopped being just a resource and became a political weapon. States realized they did not need to aggressively tax land or wealth. They could tax survival itself. Everyone needed salt. Everyone consumed it daily. It was visible, measurable, and unavoidable. Salt became the perfect taxable commodity. In China, government-controlled salt monopolies existed for centuries, beginning as early as the Han Dynasty. The state controlled production and distribution, using salt revenue to fund armies, administration, and expansion. In medieval Europe, strict salt taxes regulated who could buy it, how much they could buy, and at what price. Smuggling was treated as a serious crime, not because salt was precious, but because it threatened state income. This was not simple greed, it was strategic control. When survival funds the state becomes deeply invested in daily life. Nowhere was this more visible than in France. The salt tax, known as the gabelle, became one of the most hated institutions in the country. The tax was uneven. Some regions paid far more than others. Some people were forced to purchase minimum quantities whether they needed them or not. Punishments for evasion were harsh. For rural populations already living near the edge, salt became more than expensive, it became humiliating. The tax drained not only money, but legitimacy. People did not erupt immediately. They smuggled, they cheated, they resented. Over time, resentment hardened into something far more dangerous. Salt did not single-handedly cause the French Revolution, but it taught millions a lesson. When a state monetizes survival unfairly, loyalty erodes quickly. This pattern was not unique to Europe. Across Africa, salt caravans crossed the Sahara, trading salt directly for gold in regions where metal was abundant, but salt was scarce. In parts of West Africa, salt blocks were weighed against gold dust at equal value. To modernize, this seems illogical, but it made perfect sense. Gold was useless if food rotted. Salt kept people alive. Salt shaped trade routes, determined city locations, and influenced the rise and fall of empires. Control salt, and you control logistics. Control logistics, and you control power. Salt did not shine, it did not impress, but it decided outcomes quietly and relentlessly. For centuries, this system worked, but like all systems built on scarcity, salt's power had limits. Geography restricted production, technology limited preservation. Then technology changed everything. Salt did not collapse in a dramatic crisis. It did not trigger rebellion. It simply lost its leverage. Refrigeration, canning, industrial food processing, and modern logistics broke the ancient connection between salt and survival. Food became abundant, supply chains expanded. What was once essential became invisible. Salt did not fall from power, it faded into the background. As salt lost its grip, power shifted. States replaced salt taxes with new forms of revenue. Monopolies dissolved, smuggling vanished. No one revolted over salt once it became cheap, because cheap salt meant full stomachs. The most powerful resource in the ancient world did not disappear because it failed. It disappeared because it stopped being a bottleneck. That detail matters. History doesn't just show us what was valuable, it shows us why it was valuable and what happens when that reason changes. Salt mattered because it sat at the intersection of necessity, control, and invisibility. People didn't think about it until it was missing. States didn't advertise their dependence on it, and when access was restricted, the consequences were immediate and human. Hunger does not wait for ideology. And this system did not die with salt, it repeats again and again. Today, power is no longer built around salt mines, but it still concentrates around essentials people barely notice until they are disrupted. Energy, water, food supply chains, shipping routes, semiconductors, payment systems. These are the modern equivalents of salt. No one praises electricity when it works, they panic when it fails. No one celebrates supply chains when shelves are empty. People protest when they are empty. Inflation hurts most not when luxury goods rise in price, but when essentials do. When food becomes expensive, when energy spikes, when housing consumes survival. People don't feel poorer, they feel trapped. And when survival becomes expensive, stability collapses quickly. This is not theory, it is historical pattern. Systems that monetize survival too aggressively don't just extract revenue, they extract legitimacy. Salt taught this lesson early. Some states learned restraint, others ignored it. The most powerful systems are not built around what people admire, they are built around what people depend on. Gold dazzles, speculation entertains, but real power hides in boring infrastructure, systems that work quietly until they fail. Salt was boring. That is why it worked. Salt did not promise wealth, it promised continuity, and continuity is the foundation of every lasting system. Empires rose by controlling essentials without triggering rebellion, and when salt stopped being scarce,
power simply moved elsewhere. Salt decided who ate, who marched, and who endured. And while we no longer trade it for gold, the logic it revealed still governs the financial world we live in today. If this changed how you see history, subscribe. History has the answers.